Hello, my friends. I hope you all are doing well today. We're going to wrap up the healthy shame, toxic shame talk we've been doing. In my previous videos, you can go back and see when I talked about toxic shame. Um, I guess I created a minor controversy because um, my wife and I were talking last night, and she was saying she doesn't think that there's such a thing as healthy shame, and I understand what she's saying, and I wish there was a word in the English language that meant like what we have described as healthy shame being um, the ability to ask for help and knowing your limitations and being able to set boundaries, you know, in those limitations, within those limitations. And so it's interesting. Humility is about the only word I can think of that comes close, but I don't really think that that covers setting boundaries, and maybe it does. And if you guys have an idea, hey, let me know. Leave a comment at the end of the video, on the bottom down there, and say, hey, you know what, this word blah 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 is what you're talking about, and but there's a healthy way to live and an unhealthy way to live. And we, as people who struggle with mental illness, we want to find the healthy way to live. And being able to ask for help and being able to draw boundaries and knowing our limitations is a healthy way to live. And it's a way that some of us, we just aren't used to living that way. Because of toxic shame, and because we think that we're no good, we think that we don't belong, we think that we're less than, we think that we're throwaways, we think that society has abandoned us, and we have all this junk piled up in our heart, layer after layer after layer after layer. And it's like the skin of an onion, you peel one layer off and then there's another, and you peel another layer off and there's another. You peel another layer off and then there's another. And the whole time you're peeling that onion, you're crying, And that's a real good picture of what it's like. So what I thought I'd do to wrap up today is share a little bit about my story. And I was sexually abused from the time I can remember. It was happening in several locations, primarily in the neighborhood I lived in, the church I went to, and the school. And for whatever reason, I got a triple shot, and and so what that did was, I never told my parents. And my mom, she was like doing cartwheels trying to figure out why I was getting in trouble in school all the time. Never told them, never said a word. Was threatened if I told, the whole bit. And nobody could figure out what was wrong with me, why I was acting the way I was acting. And in high school, I discovered marijuana, and how that kind of acted as self-medicating the shame that I was feeling. And the cycle would be, something would trigger the sexual abuse. I would feel a lot of guilt and shame. And in order to deal with the guilt and shame, I would self-medicate and feel guilty for self-medicating, so I would self-medicate more, and then the process would start all over again. And that's really the cycle of addiction. And once I squarely faced the sexual abuse, then the addiction part took care of itself. And I believe at one point in my life, I struggled with, addiction, but, and I went to Alcoholics Anonymous for quite a while, and, but there was something still wrong with me, and I didn't know what that was. I related to what everybody was saying in AA, and it was cool, but it was like, but no, and, my sponsor would be like, well, you just got to do this, you got to do that. And, I would do this, I would do that, and it still wouldn't work. And, well, you're not doing it right. Well, you know what? I don't know. I'm doing what you told me to do. And, well, it's because I was mentally ill and I wasn't on medication. And, after I first got out of the hospital on medication, I went to an NA meeting, and, we were going around the room talking, and I mentioned the medication I was on, and, half the room just flipped out, like, you can't be on medication and be on NA, and, or claim clean time. And I was like, yeah, well, okay, then I guess I'm not going to be clean, because if I want to have a decent life, I have to be on medication. And so in 2012, I had a really major breakdown. In January of that year, I had a heart catheterization test, and I was laying on the table. I was naked. They were shaving me, and my PTSD was triggered, and that hadn't been triggered in years. And I had the procedure. I was awake through the whole thing because the medication they gave me wasn't strong enough, and I was so stressed out from being triggered that my body wouldn't give up control. So I went through the procedure completely awake and felt everything. They went up through my groin with a little catheter with a camera on the end of it to, check out my heart. And the triggering was so what's the word? I felt so much upheaval from being triggered. My body wouldn't give up the control to submit to the medication, so I could relax enough to let it kick in and just kind of doze while they did the procedure. I wouldn't give up that control, and that was because I was triggered. Time went on. School was out. And I had my first real heavy-duty mental health crisis, where I was diagnosed with antidepressant-induced mania. The antidepressant I was taking induced a bipolar mania. I didn't know I was bipolar when I was taking the antidepressant, and you have to be careful if you are bipolar and taking antidepressants to make sure that the antidepressant doesn't cause you to go into a manic episode. My mouth is like super dry. So, so I went through that, got on medication, and all of a sudden, I wasn't angry anymore. And I wasn't, I would read all about bipolar disorder, And I thought, that's me, that's completely me. And finally, finally, after all of these years, 45 years old, and I discovered really what was truly wrong with me. And it was easy to surrender at that point because I had wondered for most of my life, either God hated me and didn't want me to be happy, or there was something wrong with me medically, and nobody has found out what it is. And, discovering that, you're mentally ill is a heavy thing. But for me, it was a relief because it was like, wow, finally, I understand my life now. My life makes complete sense to me now because of this diagnosis. I understand. I understand what it means to be bipolar. I understand about the highs. I understand about the lows. I understand about the mood swings. I understand about, having to take the medication. I understand that. And that understanding just sparked an awakening within my soul and my spirit of like, yes, and and I got on Facebook and joined some groups, and I have a great support system with my family and some dear friends in a community. And with not having any family here now, it doesn't matter because I have such wonderful support. And I guess that's what I would encourage you guys to do if you don't have it, is to seek out support. And you may say, Paul, I don't have any family. I'm not married. I'm single. I don't know anybody. Well, you know what? There's all kinds of organizations that offer, support groups for people with bipolar disorder. And NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, they have local places all over the country. You get in touch with them. They'll tell you, where a support group is. And even on the computer or on YouTube, you can find places where, you can get support. And if you're watching this video and you need support, email me. Send me an email. If enough of us get an email, if enough of us need support and I get an email from you, we can start our own Facebook group. The sky's the limit as far as what we can do. And I hope that gave you guys some insight into me and my struggles, and hopefully in the process it encouraged you. So I think the takeaway from today is what has been most of the time is, clear your heart, clear your mind, clear your thoughts. Let them all pass through. Picture them going in one side and out the other side. Become silent, become still. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know. Be still. Be. And if we can be and remain in that place, then, oh, my dog, of course, then we can be in the present moment, and we'll be present for each other And then all we have to worry about doing is the next right thing. I get an amen from my dog. See you later, guys. Hope you have a good one.